He wanted my wealth, but I took control of my future. Here's why I called off the wedding. The dream proposal was everything I had imagined and more. My fiancé and I had been together for 3 years, and it felt like the perfect time to take the next step. He had always been charming, attentive, and supportive, everything I wanted in a partner. Our relationship seemed flawless, or at least that's what I thought. When the day finally came, he took me to a beautiful, secluded beach at sunset, where he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. The ring sparkled in the fading light, and I couldn't help but cry tears of joy. It felt like a dream come true. We had always talked about a lavish wedding, a beautiful house, and a life of luxury, and now it seemed like all of it was within our reach. He was my perfect match, or so I believed. We began planning our future together, discussing everything from wedding details to potential homes and the kind of life we wanted. My fiancé's excitement was infectious, and he seemed just as eager to build a life full of love, success, and happiness. I was thrilled to finally be marrying the man I thought I would spend forever with. But in the back of my mind, I was unaware of the storm that was brewing, one that would shatter everything I thought I knew about him. There were no signs, no indication that the man I was about to marry had a completely different agenda. All of that would come crashing down when I least expected it, in the most heartbreaking and shocking way possible. It was supposed to be the beginning of our happily ever after. But little did I know, it was the start of something entirely different. As time passed, little things began to nag at the back of my mind, things I initially dismissed as insignificant. At first, it was his subtle comments about the things I owned. He would often mention how impressive my career was, but then quickly follow up with remarks about how lucky I was to have a luxury home, car, and the kind of wealth I had worked so hard for. I brushed it off, thinking he was just making conversation. But over time, these comments began to feel more like an unspoken expectation. He seemed to be constantly around, asking about my work, my investments, and my financial goals. I started noticing that whenever we went out, he would always comment on the high-end items others had, as if subtly comparing them to the life we were building together. It started to feel like he wasn't just content with the life we were creating, but was beginning to believe that all of my accomplishments were somehow owed to him as well. I began to question his true intentions, wondering if his interest in my success was rooted in admiration or something more calculating. Despite these lingering doubts, I convinced myself that I was just overthinking. After all, he was still the man I loved, and we were building a future together. But then came the day when he made his first direct suggestion that took me by complete surprise. We were sitting at dinner, casually talking about our wedding plans, when he said, "You know, when we get married, we should definitely put the house and car in both of our names. It only makes sense since we were going to be sharing everything." I was stunned. It was one thing to dream about the future together, but this felt more like an ownership claim than an expression of partnership. I felt an uncomfortable knot in my stomach, but I chose to brush it off. Not realizing it was the first clear warning sign of the underlying tension that was about to surface. The moment he made his bold demand, everything changed. It was a quiet evening, one where we were supposed to be relaxing and planning the details of our wedding. But what started as a casual conversation quickly escalated into something that took me completely by surprise. We had been talking about the wedding venue when he casually brought up the subject of my assets. He said, "You know, we should make sure that everything is legally tied to both of us, your house, your car, the bank accounts, all of it. It's only fair since we'll be sharing a life together." Right. At first, I thought it was just another one of those "we in this together" talks that married couples have. But then he pushed further, his tone more serious, even a little demanding. He made it clear that he felt entitled to a share of everything I had worked so hard for. His words hit me like a punch to the gut, and I was left speechless. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of what was happening. I had always envisioned our marriage as a partnership built on love and mutual respect, not one where my personal success was something to be claimed. The more he talked, the more his true intentions became evident. He wasn't asking to contribute to our shared future. He was claiming a stake in what I had built long before I met him. My luxury home, my car, and all the hard-earned wealth I had accumulated suddenly, they were not just mine anymore. I felt betrayed, violated even. It wasn't about money or property, it was about control. The man I had trusted, the one I was supposed to marry, was trying to take what was mine without even offering a semblance of reciprocity. I had to stop the conversation before it went any further, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. The decision to call off the wedding was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But in that moment, it was the only choice I could make. As the shock of my fiancé's demands set in, I tried to rationalize the situation, telling myself that maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew that what he had asked for wasn't just about assets, it was about respect and boundaries. I couldn't ignore the feeling that I was being manipulated, that he saw me not as an equal partner, but as a means to an end. I spent hours pacing back and forth, questioning everything. I thought about all the love we shared, the dreams we built together, and the future we had envisioned. But I also thought about my independence, the years of hard work, and the sacrifices I made to get to where I was. How could I let someone take that from me? Especially someone who, just days before, I had trusted with my life. When I finally confronted him, the conversation was painfully awkward. He didn't seem to understand why I was upset. To him, it was just a practical matter, an arrangement that made sense. But to me, it was a breach of trust, a violation of everything I had worked for. I told him that I couldn't go through with the wedding, that I wasn't willing to merge my life with someone who didn't respect my autonomy. The look on his face was a mixture of disbelief and anger. But I stood firm. I explained that a relationship built on manipulation wasn't one I was willing to pursue. It broke my heart to see how quickly he turned from the man I loved to someone I no longer recognized. But I knew that walking away was the only way to protect myself. My dreams for the future had to be mine, and no one was going to take that away from me. In the aftermath of the breakup, I found myself in a whirlwind of emotions: hurt, relief, confusion, and even a sense of empowerment I hadn't expected. Calling off the wedding had been the hardest thing I'd ever done. But looking back, it was the best decision I could have made. The weight I had been carrying, the sense of betrayal, and the fear of losing myself in a relationship that wasn't built on mutual respect, it all started to lift. The first few weeks were rough. I spent time processing everything, questioning how I had missed the signs, and why I had allowed myself to be so swept up in someone else's idea of a future. But in that solitude, I began to rediscover myself. I focused on my career, my passions, and the things I had put on hold while I was so deeply invested in planning a life with someone who didn't truly support me. I started putting more energy into the things that made me feel whole, whether it was spending time with friends and family, traveling, or simply indulging in activities that brought me joy. Slowly, the healing began. I realized that my worth was not defined by my relationship or by what I owned, but by my resilience and the strength I had to walk away from something that was no longer serving me. The lessons I learned were invaluable. I learned the importance of boundaries, the need to trust my instincts, and the realization that I deserved a partnership based on equality and respect. Most importantly, I learned that I was enough on my own. As time went on, I found peace. The future no longer seemed uncertain or tainted by betrayal. I knew I had made the right choice, and I was ready to step into a new chapter of my life stronger, wiser, and more determined to never compromise on my values again. If you were shocked by this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more real-life tales, relationship drama, and eye-opening revelations. Don't miss out, join our community, and stay updated on all the latest stories.